Okay, good day. So this is our first lesson para sa fourth quarter natin sa Statistics and Probability, and this is Understanding Hypothesis Testing. At ito yung ating mga learning objectives for lesson number 1. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to understand the idea behind hypothesis testing, define and formulate hypothesis testing, distinguish null hypothesis from alternative hypothesis, determine whether a hypothesis test is non-directional or directional, and lastly, determine whether a directional test is left-tailed. Okay? So, to begin with our lesson, let us first define hypothesis testing. Balikan natin yung definition of hypothesis testing. And it says, hypothesis testing is a decision-making process for evaluating claims about a population based on the characteristic of a sample purportedly coming from the population. Ibig sabihin po, for us to decide if such claim about the population is true or not, kukuha muna tayo ng sample from the population. Okay? And our decision about the claim about the population can be acceptable or not. Okay? Now, in other words, ibig sabihin pala, pag sinabing hypothesis testing, it is a process which involves a decision between two opposing hypotheses. Sabihin, may dalawa tayong hypothesis. At itong dalawang hypothesis na to, ipo-formulate natin. Na kung saan, yung isang hypothesis is a negation of the other. Ibig sabihin nun, if one is true, the other must be false. Okay? Ano ba yung two types of hypothesis natin? The first one is the null hypothesis. Ang ginagamit nating notation is H sub 0. And it is defined as a statement that there is no difference between a parameter and a specific value, or that there is no difference between two parameters. Kapag one population test ang gagawin natin and there is a claim about this population, kapag null hypothesis, kukunin natin yung sample mean kasi magsasampling tayo, sample mean do not differ from the population mean. Yun yung ating null hypothesis. Kapag naman two population test tayo, so it involves two parameters. Let's say ang ating parameters ay mean, para in-state ang null hypothesis natin kapag involved ang dalawang parameter, ay ganito. There is no difference between two population mean. Okay? So yun ang ating null hypothesis. Basta ibig sabihin, kapag null hypothesis, there is no difference. Okay? Walang pagkakaiba yung population mean yung sa ating sample mean. Kapag dalawang parameter, no difference yung dalawang population mean. Okay? And the other type of hypothesis is the alternative hypothesis. H sub 1 ang ating ginagamit na notation. Kung yung ating null hypothesis is there is no difference, kapag alternative hypothesis, there is a difference between a parameter and specific value, or that there is a difference between two parameters. Kapag one population test, and there is a claim about a population, kapag alternative, yung sample mean natin differ from the population mean. Kapag naman two population tests, there is a difference between two population means. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng alternative hypothesis. Again, kapag null, there is no difference. Kapag alternative, there is a difference. Okay? So, paano ba natin ilalagay sa symbol yung ating null and alternative hypothesis? For example, if we have two parameters, let's say the population means. Mu sub 1 is the mean of the first population. Mu sub 2 is the mean of the second population. For the null hypothesis, para masabi nating walang pagkakaiba o walang difference yung dalawang population, we're going to write H sub 0 colon mu 1 equals to mu 2. Yung mu 1 is the mean of the first population. Mu 2 is the mean of the second population. Yung ginamit ko ditong equal sign means that there is no difference between the two populations. Or we can write the difference of these two populations, mean The difference between these two population means is equal to 0. So that is how to write the null hypothesis involving two parameters. For the alternative hypothesis, we write H sub 1 colon mu1 is not equal to mu2. So, ibig sabihin nun, that there is a difference between the two parameters. Okay, so that is how to write the null and alternative hypothesis in symbols. For example, let's say the average salary of teachers in public high school and private high school is the same. So ito yung claim about the population. So therefore, the null hypothesis is H sub 0, mu sub 1 equal to mu sub 2. Wherein mu sub 1 natin, ito yung average salary of teachers in public high school, at yung mu sub 2 natin, average salary of teachers in private high school. So null hypothesis, there is no difference between their average salary, mu sub 1 equal to mu sub 2. And for the alternative hypothesis, this is the negation of the null hypothesis. So if the two means are equal for the null hypothesis, for the alternative hypothesis, the two means are not equal. So in symbol, we write for the alternative hypothesis, H sub 1, comma, mu sub 1 is not equal to mu sub 2. So that is how to write the null and alternative hypothesis given yung ating dalawang parameters. Okay? And for the directions of our hypothesis, we have two types. Okay? When the alternative hypothesis utilizes the not equal symbol, the test is said to be non-directional. Okay? And when the alternative hypothesis utilizes the less than and greater than symbol, the test is said to be directional. Okay? And pag sinabing non-directional, that is two-tailed test. At pag sinabing directional, that is a one-tailed test. And here are the graphical representations of the two-tailed test and the one-tailed test in the normal curve. Okay? We have for two-tailed test, non-directional to, the probability is found on both tails of the distribution. Naroon yung probability value na kung saan we reject the null hypothesis. At yung shaded region, naroon yung region na kung saan we can accept the null hypothesis. And for the one-tailed test, left tail, the shaded region, yun yung probability value that we reject the null. Okay? And for the right tail, directional, the shaded region to the right is the probability value that we reject the null hypothesis. Now, itetest natin kung yung ating statistics na nakuha natin o yung sample mean will fall down dun sa shaded region in the normal curve. Kung dun tumama, we reject the null hypothesis. Otherwise, we accept. Because yung shaded region, as I've said earlier, yun yung rejection region natin ng ating null hypothesis. While yung shaded region, yun yung ating acceptance region of the null hypothesis. Pag-aaralan pa natin ang higit dyan sa lesson number 2. What we're going to do for this lesson is I'm going to show you how to state the null and alternative hypothesis given a certain situation. But before that, let me give you the phrases, hypothesis testing common phrases, for us to decide if such situation is directional and non-directional. Okay? For greater than symbol, makikita niyo yung phrase na is greater than, is above, is higher than, is longer than, is bigger than, is increased. Okay? For the left tail, o ito yung one-tail test pa rin, directional, is less than, is below, is lower than, is shorter than, is smaller than, is decreased or reduced from. Pero kapag two-tailed or equal symbol, ang gagamitin natin for our null hypothesis, is equal to, is the same as not changed from, is the same as. And for not equal to symbol, makikita natin yung phrase na is not equal to, is different from, has changed from, is not the same as. So take note of these common phrases, makatutulong sa atin to on how we're going to state our null and alternative hypothesis. So watch my next video giving you 3 examples on how to write the null and alternative hypothesis. Thank you.